Lillian Mercer sat frozen as the courtroom buzzed with outrage around her. The confidence she carried into Judge Helena Bennett's courtroom was disappearing second by second, replaced by panic she had never experienced before. For the first time in her privileged life, money wasn't fixing the situation. Judge Helena wasn't finished exposing her. The judge calmly opened another folder, stacked with documents collected during the investigation. Inside were records from previous incidents the Mercer family had quietly buried for years through expensive attorneys and confidential settlements. The courtroom listened in stunned silence as Judge Helena walked through them one by one. In 2019, while attending an elite university, Lillian hosted a destructive party inside her sorority house that caused nearly $45,000 in damage. Surveillance footage showed drunken vandalism, destroyed furniture, spray-painted walls, and even alcohol poured directly into a historic piano while her friends recorded videos for social media. The university had considered expulsion and criminal charges, but Daniel Mercer's legal team intervened immediately. Money was donated, settlements were reached, the incident vanished. Then came the Miami vacation home. A luxury waterfront property returned, looking like a disaster site. After Lillian and her friends trashed it during spring break, windows broken, artwork stolen, furniture dumped into the swimming pool, entire sections of the home destroyed for entertainment. Agan, lawyers arrived. Agan, settlements buried the truth. Agan, no consequences. The pattern repeated in Manhattan, where another apartment ended in thousands of dollars of destruction. After Lillian drunkenly remodeled a bathroom in the middle of the night, and damaged expensive hardwood floors, walls, and appliances. Each time, her father's money protected her. Each time, victims accepted settlements because fighting billionaire attorneys was impossible. Judge Helena made one thing painfully clear. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't youthful recklessness. This was a repeated lifestyle built on entitlement and protection from accountability. Then Judge Helena shifted toward an even darker topic. The waitress incident. Lillian had thrown red wine into a restaurant worker's face after being told the kitchen was closing. Videos showed her mocking the woman afterward online, while her wealthy friends laughed in the background. Even those charges disappeared mysteriously. As the judge described each incident, Lillian's expression changed from arrogance to visible fear. The audience no longer saw a glamorous billionaire's daughter. They saw someone who had spent years abusing people while hiding behind inherited wealth. Judge Helena then turned attention toward Daniel Mercer himself. The judge described the culture surrounding the Mercer empire, a business world built around intimidation, settlements, legal threats, and the belief that money could erase any problem. Money solves everything. Daniel Mercer had once publicly claimed during a business conference. Judge Helena repeated the quote slowly. And if money doesn't solve it, she added, lawyers will. That philosophy had shaped Lillian's entire worldview. She had been raised believing consequences were optional for wealthy people, that ordinary workers existed beneath her, that damage could always be repaired with checks and NDAs. But now, millions of viewers were watching those beliefs collapse live on television. Judge Helena returned to Sofia Alvarez. Sofia sat trembling quietly with tears in her eyes as the judge reviewed the horrifying details of what had happened inside her apartment. The evidence became overwhelming. Videos recovered from deleted Instagram stories showed Lillian laughing while destroying furniture. Screenshots captured racist comments directed at Sophia. Text messages revealed deliberate intentions to trash the Mexican apartment. This wasn't careless partying anymore. It looked targeted, malicious, hateful. The courtroom atmosphere shifted from entertainment to genuine outrage. Judge Helena pressed Sophia gently about the racist remarks. Sophia explained through tears that Lillian repeatedly questioned whether she was legal, mocked her ethnicity, and treated her like she didn't belong in the neighborhood. Lillian immediately tried denying everything. Judge Helena cut her off sharply. "Stop." The judge's voice carried complete authority now. She laid out the financial reality in brutal terms. Lillian received $50,000 every single month from her father, $600,000 annually for doing nothing. Sophia worked exhausting, 60-hour weeks to survive. The $3,200 Sophia requested represented a major portion of her yearly income. For Lillian, it was almost meaningless. Then Judge Helena delivered one of the most devastating speeches of the entire hearing. "You destroy property," she said firmly. "Your father pays settlements. You avoid accountability." Over and over again. The judge listed each previous incident chronologically: sorority house, Miami property, Manhattan apartment, restaurant assault. Every single case followed the same pattern: damage, lawyers, money, silence. Until now, Lillian's attorney attempted to interrupt multiple times, but Judge Helena shut him down immediately. "This courtroom is one of the few places," she said coldly, "where wealth does not determine the outcome." That sentence alone later became viral across social media. For the first time, Lillian stopped arguing. She began pleading. Her voice cracked as she begged the judge to let her pay and move on. But Judge Helena refused to reduce the situation to money. The judge awarded Sophia the full damages, plus $15,000 in punitive compensation tied to discriminatory harassment and emotional suffering. Then came the moment that completely shattered the Mercer family. Judge Helena formally recommended criminal investigation into possible hate crime violation connected to the evidence. The courtroom exploded into applause. Even audience members looked stunned. Lillian burst into tears immediately. But Judge Helena still had more to say. The judge revealed evidence suggesting Daniel Mercer's settlements and legal payouts may have involved improper financial reporting and tax classifications. Federal investigators would later examine those records. "You entered this courtroom believing you were untouchable," Judge Helena said. "You leave understanding that money does not place you above justice." Case dismissed. Lillian collapsed emotionally at the defense table while cameras captured every second. Her attorney rushed toward her. Sophia quietly mouthed, "Thank you," toward the judge through tears. Judge Helena gave her a small smile, rarely seen in court. Within hours, the footage spread everywhere. Social media exploded. Millions watched clips of Lillian telling Judge Helena that public servants worked for wealthy people like her family. The backlash became immediate and brutal. The hashtag #BillionaireJustice dominated online discussions for days. Reaction videos flooded TikTok and YouTube. News outlets replayed the courtroom footage continuously. Lillian's social media accounts were overwhelmed with criticism before eventually disappearing entirely. But online embarrassment became the least of her problems. The district attorney's office launched investigations within 48 hours. Potential hate crime charges were reviewed. Former victims contacted attorneys and journalists. 11 additional people came forward with stories about destruction, intimidation, or settlements involving the Mercer family. The IRS reportedly began auditing Mercer-related financial activity connected to previous legal settlements. Daniel Mercer's business empire started taking serious damage. Stock prices fell. Clients backed away. Political figures distanced themselves. Charity organizations removed his family from leadership positions. Even country clubs reportedly suspended memberships. Meanwhile, Lillian's personal life completely unraveled. Her monthly allowance was cut off. Credit cards were canceled. Her trust fund access froze during investigations. Luxury brand partnerships disappeared overnight. Friends stopped associating with her publicly. Eventually, she entered rehab following an emotional breakdown and disappeared from public social media entirely. For the first time in her life, she faced consequences she couldn't escape with money. Sophia's life changed in the opposite direction. Public support poured in from across the country. A fundraising campaign raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. Her student loans were paid. She received legal support and advocacy opportunities. Magazines interviewed her. Hospitals offered employment opportunities. Tenant rights organizations invited her to speak publicly about abuse by wealthy landlords and renters. She eventually graduated near the top of her nursing class and began working in pediatric oncology. Judge Helena reportedly remained in contact with her afterward. The courtroom episode itself became legendary. Law schools studied it. News commentators debated it endlessly. Millions viewed it as proof that accountability could still exist even for wealthy families, protected by power and influence. Judge Helena later explained that the Mercer case represented something much larger than one destroyed apartment. It exposed a system where wealth insulated people from consequences until someone finally refused to stay silent. 6 months later, reports described a completely different Lillian Mercer. Gone were the luxury parties and social media arrogance. She reportedly lived in a modest apartment similar to the one she once mocked and destroyed. She worked an ordinary job for hourly pay, completed hundreds of hours of community service, attended mandatory therapy, and for the first time in her life, she experienced what ordinary people experienced every single day: financial stress, accountability, consequences. Daniel Mercer himself suffered enormous financial and reputational losses after investigations and settlements expanded. His company paid millions in penalties and taxes. His marriage reportedly collapsed. He eventually admitted publicly that he had protected and enabled his daughter's worst behavior for years. Sofia Alvarez, meanwhile, became a symbol of resilience. She purchased her first home, decrypted scholarship opportunities for working-class students, advocated for tenant protections, and inspired millions of people who had spent years feeling powerless against wealth and influence. The Mercer case became a cultural turning point. Several states even discussed stronger protections against abusive NDAs and expanded tenant rights legislation afterward, but the moment people remembered most remained simple. 8 words, spoken by a billionaire's daughter who believed she owned the world. And the judge who proved she didn't, because inside Judge Helena Bennett's courtroom, justice was never for sale.